Today, I am absolutely thrilled to welcome Dr. Jen Bourgeois to the Unlock Your Genius Zone podcast. Dr. Jen is a PharmD Forbes featured speaker. She is a fellow of the American Institute of Stress and is recognized as a trailblazer in the next era of female leadership. Welcome to the show, Jen. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. And, that's very interesting how we met and how this collaboration kind of got put together. I think we met about a year ago, right?
Self Mastery Live
Yeah,
last.
I think that was it, last June. And I remember at one of the days, maybe it was the last day, you approached me and said, we have to do some sort of collaboration with the cello, with spoken voice, activation, something. And life got busy. We kept going. But for the last 2 months, Dr. Jen and I have actually been putting together something beautiful. It is actually released today, the day that this episode goes out. And it is a meditation slash activation called Expansion into Your Next Level. And we will be going into some of the details about that meditation, Dr. Jen's history with nervous system regulation, and so much more. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. So, first of all, Jen, I am so curious to know a bit of your story. Tell me how you came to be where you are now and why you do the work that you do so passionately.
Well, like many of us, it is a personal journey that led me into this professional role today. About 6 years ago, I found myself in burnout. At the time, I did not know that it was burnout. What I was experiencing was chronic fatigue, insomnia,
Mm.
headaches, and I went to the conventional doctor looking for answers. I found nothing. And so I began this quest to really understand what was going on in my body. Why was I experiencing the symptoms that I was? And so I turned to integrative health, functional medicine. I really began to understand my body holistically
Mm.
and was able to discover the root cause, which was stress. And I, at the time, new mom, I had two young kids. I was working 40 plus hours a week in a very demanding job in healthcare. And it was, I loved my job. I loved being a mom, but my capacity was a bit overextended.
Yeah.
And what I learned was this very ambiguous term of stress actually had a little bit more of a deeper root in this nervous system explanation.
Mm.
So the journey was very divine, and when I uncovered my physical health was actually being impacted by quote stress, I really became interested in understanding more about stress. And so that's when I uncovered the nervous system. And that's when I became a practitioner, got certified.
Mm.
I joined the American Institute of Stress because I really wanted to understand more about this really epidemic of sort where we know over 90% of diseases caused by stress, but we really have a hard time in medicine defining stress. And
Yeah.
so what I found is this nervous system that we all have in our body, this physiology is actually that connection, that connecting point of this ambiguous stress with what we feel and see physically in our life. So burnout, what I say is my kryptonite became my superpower of sort. This place where I found myself burnout, physically, mentally, spiritually impacted by my life and my lifestyle and the speed at which I was living this life. it really did send me on this journey to rediscover who I am and my purpose, and allowed me to really define what's important, and create a life that actually aligns with those priorities. So here I am today doing work that I absolutely love and feel
Mhm.
called to, because I think so many women are desperate to understand more about this system and how it works and how it's truly impacting our life.
Yeah, and the nervous system, it's not something we feel a lot of the time until it's too late. I know personally as a mom, I know when my nervous system is overstimulated or dysregulated. And that's where I find your work so fascinating is you help women to, and tell me if this is a good summary, you really help them to be proactive and prevent burnout in the first place. Which actually brings me to something I've been meaning to ask you since I met you like a year ago. For a lot of entrepreneurs, there is this arc in their story of success. They think I have to become burnt out and they have this point of no return, reach rock bottom before I can actually be successful. Is that true? Like, have you found that most women go through that, or is there a better way?
Mhm. I think it's common. It's a common journey. I absolutely believe there's a better way. I think if we are honest with ourselves, there is this worldly indoctrination that we buy into that says success has to be hard, success requires sacrifice. And I do think that success requires hard work and dedication and commitment, but I don't believe that it truly requires sacrifice, sacrificing of self, sacrificing of health. And I think the line has just gotten really muddied. And in women, we want to be moms, we want to climb the ladder professionally, and we want to be entrepreneurs and create impact. And so there is a way that we can do both, but we have to do it in a way that honors our biology and our rhythms, because we weren't designed the same way that men are designed. And we have to honor that, yes, there's a way we can do both, but if we don't honor our capacity and our biology, then we will very easily find ourselves in that burnout pattern that you're talking about, in that valley
Mhm.
of sorts. And it is not required for success. And I hope that we can, I hope we can get that message out
Yes.
loud and clear to women that it is not required.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hear you doing that in all of your content. You are so consistent with that message. And I also just want to speak to the woman listening to this. It is not a requirement for success. Like take that to heart if that's the one thing you hear from Jen and take away from this episode. It is not a requirement and there really is a better way. So I would love to go a little bit into what that better way is. What are some of the main frameworks or outline of frameworks? Because obviously we can't go into that in the 30-minute episode. But if you can give us one thing that we could walk away with to help go down that path, go the better way, what would that be?
So when we think about the nervous system and the way in which it was designed, its primary role is safety and survival. And so when we really understand our physiology is designed to keep us alive, amazing, and that is
Yeah.
fantastic. But life as we know it in 2025, it's fast and it's furious, right?
Yeah.
Are we are fully scheduled because our kids are in multiple activities and we have multiple kids and we have a cell phone that we have with us at all times and we are
Hmm.
always accessible, and we have email that we can receive in milliseconds, and our cars go 100 plus miles an hour. And so we just live a really fast paced life, which unfortunately signals to our physiology and our biology, which is very primitive, that we have this threat happening. So all of this overstimulation actually is interpreted by our physiology to say that we may not be safe. So it turns on our stress system, which creates a whole cascade of change in our body that isn't always favorable for what we desire. So, for instance, if our cortisol stays high for a long period of time, it disrupts our blood sugar, it changes our digestive ability, it changes our fertility ability.
Mm.
And so we have to honor that there is a connection and it's very real.
Mhm.
So, if we want to live a full life in 2025, I think that's wonderful. But we have to honor that we have this system. So, first and foremost, we want to understand it because when you understand how it works, you can truly make it a superpower of sort. You can use it to your advantage. And so that's the first thing that I teach my clients is how this system works. What is it? What's its purpose? How does it work? And how do you understand your stress system, your nervous system? And how do you use it to your advantage? So I say we make it your unfair advantage. And that's just a kind of a fun way that I like to position it to my clients because that's truly what we can do. So the first thing is really understanding it, which to your point, we don't have enough time to fully dive into it. But what I can give you that is, I think, a really impactful and powerful takeaway is capacity and talking about this idea of capacity. Um, you know, I think an outdated idea is this balance, right? We wanna have this balanced life, and it just sets us up for, I feel like, this unachievable destination because truly we can't ever be balanced. We're always going to be on this chase for it. And so, not a bad thing, but just saying we may want to approach it a little bit different with this idea of capacity. And I want you to think about a coffee cup. Many of us women enjoy coffee. And so I want you to just imagine this 20-ounce coffee cup. And that is going to illustrate you and your ability to hold and handle your life capacity. I want you to think about the liquid that goes into the coffee cup as your life, all the things you're doing, your to-dos, your visible and your invisible load, right? So we're thinking about the emotions we carry, the worry as moms, that constant list that we carry in our mind of I need to make that doctor's appointment, I need to get new tires, we have vacation next week, does everybody have a bathing suit, right? So just everything is liquid. And so the very first thing we can do, business, right? That business, personal, spiritual, emotional, everything's liquid. The first thing we can do is we can check in with ourselves and we can say, how full is my cup? How full is my cup? Because sometimes we have this really beautiful, vibrant colored coffee cup, right? That is very capable of handling our liquid, our life.
Mhm.
And our cup is truly 20 ounces, and life is 12 to 14, right? So we check in and we go, I've got space in my cup. I actually feel able. I feel like I've got this. I don't feel overwhelmed. I'm not feeling stressed out by life. I feel like I can. And so we want to honor that when we have space in the cup, when our cup size is bigger than our life size, that reflects directly in our nervous system. We are able to really access more of this state where we can be present and relaxed and grounded and connected and creative. I know that's your zone of genius. We can access this creativity. And so When our liquid size is bigger than our cup size, so let's just
Mhm.
say 40 ounces of life in this 20-ounce cup,
Yeah.
it spills over. So when we have spillage, that's where we feel irritated,
Mm.
short-tempered. We're noticing that we feel overwhelmed. We may doom scroll and kind of check out because it's like too much. We may start to procrastinate. We may lose our creativity edge.
Mhm.
We may really become less productive because we have this spillage. And so this is all connected to the nervous system. But I think one thing that people listening can really take away from this is just this quick check in of how do I
Mhm.
feel? How am I equipped as Jen and Ina today? Did I sleep well? How's my diet been? Do I have social connection? Do I have those supportive relationships? How's my spiritual life? All those things impact your cup size. You know, am I out in the sunshine? Am I moving my body? Those are all going to ensure that we have a really nice big cup size. But you know, sometimes
Mhm.
we check in and we realize I actually haven't moved as much this week. I actually haven't been outside as much this week. The kids have been sick, so we haven't been sleeping as well as we normally do.
Mhm.
We've been busy and we've eaten out more this week. And so we want to honor that those choices impact our cup size. They make it smaller.
Mhm.
And so when we start this process of awareness and checking in and connecting the dots to just say, how's my cup size? How's my life size? Is there congruency? Do I still have space in my cup? It really empowers us as women. It
Mhm.
really gives us this empowerment of, you know what? I have more control in this scenario than I actually realize because there are things I can do to improve my cup size, but
Mhm.
also sometimes I need to just be real with myself and understand liquid's too much. I've overcommitted. You know, I'm gonna have to say no to some things. I'm gonna have to pare down this life size, this liquid size,
Mhm.
to honor how I want to show up. Because I know that if I continue to live this life where my liquid, my life size is much bigger than my cup size, my capacity, I will burn out. I will be showing up in a way that I don't necessarily align with, that snappy, irritated mom, that person in business who's not upholding, deadlines and not following up with the clients and not, able to show up in the way that she wants to. So we just want to honor, does that make sense? We want to just really
Mhm.
honor this awareness piece of how
Mhm.
we're showing up and what does life feel like in regards to the capacity.
Yeah. Wow, that is number one, a beautiful analogy. It is so practical and it's also very reflective at the same time because I think a lot of women they might get frustrated with the size of the cup and wish that it was a 40-ounce cup to accommodate the life instead of either removing some of the liquid and getting back into alignment with what really matters to them. And that's what I'm also hearing is you are touching on the fact that if they are coming to the verge of burnout, their nervous system is dysregulated, they are actually sacrificing the things that matters most to them, their values, by saying yes to too many things. It's interesting how when we want to do the opposite, we actually want to fulfill our values. We say yes to so many things, and our cup is overflowing. We're starting to burn out, overflowing in the bad way, of course. Um, when that's when we really start to sacrifice the kind of mom we want to be, the kind of coach we want to be, all of the different areas. What would you say to the woman that is frustrated that the cup size is too small and there's life is too much? And feels like she doesn't have time to make the cup size actually accommodate the life or the reverse. What would you say to that woman?
I would say, I see you. I see
Mhm.
you. It is a moment where many of us have this great word, that you use, this reflection this awareness of, I really have big dreams, and I really want to have this full 40-ounce life. And there is absolutely a way to expand your cup size and grow your cup size. And so that's a lot of the work I do with clients, is really working on this kind of expansion of capacity and nervous system. But what won't get you there is to continue to overfill your cup, because
Mm.
that actually makes your cup smaller. And so
Yeah.
what I see many women do is they think, I'm just going to push through. I'm just going to do it. I can. Because many of us have evidence that we can. We
Yeah.
have pushed through for long periods of time and sustained that just fine.
Mm.
But it doesn't last forever. And there will come a point in time where you cannot push through anymore. And so, what I want to say is that if your goal is a 40-ounce life and you're noticing you have a 20-ounce cup, honor the cup size you have. Because if
Mm.
you will allow your life size to match your cup size, you can grow that cup size.
Mm.
It will naturally happen because you
That makes
see
sense.
yourself. You're honoring your limits. You're going to build resiliency through the process of the journey of saying, you know what,
Hmm.
it just is. It
Yeah.
just is. There's so much permission in that one
Mm.
statement. It just is. This is what it is. It doesn't mean I'm going to be here forever, but at this moment, my cup size is 20. And so I want to honor how I'm showing up. And
Hmm.
I want to create this alignment, because the more you can do that, the more naturally your cup size will actually expand.
Hmm.
And so that's the first thing I want to just say to that woman and meet her right there is, it's not a forever. You're not, by honoring this cup size and this life size and having some congruency, you're not saying that you are always going to settle for this 20-ounce. If you have dreams for 40, then I want you to see that through, because there's purpose in that dream and that desire. And I know God put that in you for a reason. So we're just going to say, don't lose that. Don't give up on it. But also, we want to honor where we are, and we want to honor that there are seasons, right? There are seasons
Mm.
in which
Yeah.
we will have more and less capacity. And the more
Yeah.
we meet ourselves where we are, the more you're going to be able to actually grow that cup size.
Hmm. Well, that is so encouraging because the woman that I was talking about, I have lived that. And what's so crazy is I've experienced the trying to pour more life into that cup and it actually shrinking when you think you can stretch it. It's not a stretchable cup. That sounds so funny. But it's true. It can stretch, but you can grow the capacity over time, and the patience and acceptance almost of that season gives you it basically sets you free. So
Mm.
thank you. That is so hope-filled. And I'm sure that other women listening to this also feels the sense that there is freedom available to them. They don't have to stay in the pushing through, white knuckling it like I've heard you say before. And I'm also curious, would you say that that is the number one thing that women do to subconsciously self-sabotage, or what types of patterns do you see in your clients?
With self-sabotage.
Yeah, with self-sabotage, with being a high achiever and trying to force more into their life when really they need to do the things that you're saying right now.
Mhm. So we want to honor that this nervous system, it's your operating system. And so
Hmm.
nervous system is mind and body. So we want to honor that we're talking about two different parts, top down, bottom up. So we have this holistic system here, and it is your operating system. So it is running in the background. It is filtering through all of your decisions, conscious and unconscious. So subconscious things are happening constantly, right, to dictate our habits and our decisions and our actions. And so this system is always on, and it's creating a filter. And so, what I see a lot of times, if we just talk about this high achieving pattern, this is a survival based pattern. And when I learned this, I was truly mind blown. I always identified as a high achiever. I didn't quite understand the undercurrent and the reasons that were underneath this particular personality trait. But being a high achiever, it is a survival based pattern. It is wired into your nervous system and your operating system. And all of the decisions you make is going to filter through this system that says, if I'm achieving, I'm safe. If I'm performing, I'm getting my needs met. If I'm on and I'm being seen as valuable, and I'm going to be safe. So this survival based system is all about core needs, love, connection, safety. That's why you've developed this personality as a high achiever. It's actually about you getting your needs met and you staying safe. But at some point in your life, it was purposeful. And so, what we find with this particular survival pattern of high achieving is that when we were younger, likely we had some skill set that made us good at something, right? And so for me, God gifted me with intelligence. And so I was really smart in school. And so I would come home with the A plus or, the straight A report card. And my parents saw me. I'm one of three, right? So they saw me. They applauded me. Good job. We're so proud. There's that word. We're so proud of you. Oh, that makes us feel good as kids, right? They
Yeah.
see, they love me. I'm valued. I'm chosen. Let me say another word. I'm worthy. We
Mm.
feel worthy. And it made us feel so good.
Yeah.
And so we start wiring in. This is happening in the background. We don't get to decide this, but our system is deciding, ooh, we're really safe here. We're safe here. Also, maybe there was an experience where you didn't perform well. There was this lack of achievement, and it made you feel shame. Made you feel shame. You felt bad. You didn't feel good. You didn't feel enough. You didn't feel worthy. It's the same system. It's wiring in. We don't like shame, and we don't like to feel unworthy, and we don't like to feel not loved. And so we're going to avoid that thing. We don't want to feel that again. And so sometimes that ties into this perfectionistic, right? I
Yeah.
can't make a mistake. So survival based patterns, what we want to honor is that they're so purposeful at some point in our life.
Yeah.
They allowed us to get our needs met, they allowed us to stay safe, and it created exactly who you are, your identity. That your survival based patterns correlate with or walk alongside your, this, but limiting beliefs, right? That's mindset work. But so there's survival patterns, there's limiting beliefs, so there's things that we wire into our systems that aren't specifically true and authentic,
Hmm.
but they're part of us and they shape us and they make us exactly who we are.
That's interesting.
And we get to these points in life, right? 30s, 40s, midlife, and we start really reassessing who we are and how we're showing up. And we start realizing, man, that's actually not how God created me. He actually didn't create me to be a high achiever,
Hmm.
because he tells me in scripture what? That I'm enough and I'm chosen and I'm loved and I'm worthy just because I'm me. I don't need to earn it and I don't need to perform for it and I don't need more letters behind my name. I'm just chosen and I'm just enough. And he tells me that. And so we get to really start to uncover our authentic being, who we're created to be. And we get to heal and soften these survival patterns and release those limiting beliefs that are keeping us stuck and they're actually blocking us from really stepping into our potential and being
Yes.
that version. And so the self-sabotage really happens in these very sneaky ways but it's all survival based. And so there are so many different ways we self-sabotage as women, high achieving just being one that you named, people pleasing, this obsessive need to control, this fear of being seen and impacting your visibility and blocking your impact. So there are so many different ways that we do that. But we want to honor a lot of it is unconscious. We don't realize that we're making these decisions and saying yes and saying no in these certain ways. It's in our wiring. It's in that background of that operating system. And so all we know is that this result isn't what we want, but we don't understand why we keep seeing ourselves back to this same place.
Yeah, that is fascinating. So fascinating. And I love, absolutely love that you go into the roots. You go into the true root of why we have the survival mechanisms, why we identify as high achieving women. And you've put a new spin on what high achievement means. So, in a way, I've never really dove deep into what high achievement means, where it really comes from. I've almost always equated it with high performance, which, as a professional cellist, I've been in the high performance world for decades now. But you are so right. There is that deeper root of survival there. And it can actually sabotage where I actually want to go. Now, what I love even more is that when you actually get to the root of it, you find out where it's coming from, and you can actually become a more regulated person. That is when you can actually fulfill your true potential, like you said. And that is so connected to your genius zone, which is related to my next question. This perfectly ties into the purpose of this podcast, this show, Unlocking Your Genius Zone. I'm curious how you would say the work that you do helps women take more action in their potential, in their true genius zone. How does what you do empower them to do that?
I love this question. I would say the main thing is you are getting so clear on your authentic being, who you are,
Mm,
that it makes sure that you are actually moving down the right path. So there's just so much clarity in this work. Many of my clients say that. They say, I know what the next step. I
mm,
know that that is the next decision. You know, the indecisiveness becomes less because
mm,
you're just stepping into this kind of authority in this is who I am and this is how I'm made. And you understand these survival based patterns and how they were purposeful, but no longer are they serving you. So you almost get to just release the chains and become more free in who you are. And so I would say that obviously helps you step into your genius because your genius is really going to be true to who you are and how you were made and your purpose and your mission. And so getting clear on that and really helping you shape your identity, clarifying that it allows you, it really does give you this momentum too of like
mm,
kind of sets a little fire within because it's like you just feel so empowered. You feel so empowered to take your message forward and create this change and see this impact through. You, I think so many of my clients realize the ways in which the survival based programming has blocked them and truly kept them from their big dreams. And it's not that they weren't enough, they didn't have it in them, they weren't skilled enough, they weren't equipped enough. They were. It was just this purposeful physiology
mm,
that they needed at some point continued to show up that was sabotaging and just
mm,
keeping them where they were for so long. And so I think it's just so
mhm.
empowering because you realize
Yeah.
I've got this, I can do this, this is who I am, this is what I was created to do. And then the
Mhm.
clarity, the confidence, this just, I feel more audacious to say that thing because I know it's true to me.
Mhm.
And I'm not second guessing myself and worried about, is it going to make everybody happy? And are they going to like me?
Yeah.
Is that people pleaser part of you has truly been softened. And it's like, you know what? Actually know that it's not my job to make everybody happy.
Mhm.
I love it when there's peace and harmony, right? But there's a difference because one is very authentic and God centered, and the other is very much survival based. And so when we do this work, it's incredible to see these women just really step into that next level. They're really just stepping into who they were always intended to be. It's almost just like the armor. I just see this image
Love
of my
that.
clients, just like the armor just falls away
Yeah.
and we see you. And so many women wear masks, the masks just fall off.
Yeah.
Like, this is me. And
Mhm.
that's truly what life is all about, this journey of really sanctification and refinement and really becoming that version of us that God always created us to be. And it's
Mhm.
it's so fulfilling for me to watch women
Yeah.
step into that role. Um,
Mm.
but I would
I love
say,
that.
yeah, I love the work you do with this zone of genius because I,
Yeah.
I I definitely saw that in my life in really being able to honor it
Yeah.
and just get clear about, yeah, this is what I was created to do.
Hmm. Hmm. And I'm loving this conversation because you are connecting to your identity, um, your emotions in your head. So almost like the logical and the soul of who you are. And then there's also the body aspect. This is actually what's coming to mind right now is a topic that I learned in music therapy, psychoneuroimmunology, how the body responds to what goes on in the mind. And you mentioned this earlier. This also makes me think of an area that I've gone quite deep in is risk tolerance. When women take action towards their goals, their dreams, their genius zone, it takes them out of their comfort zone. And in order to actually do that, they need to be regulated. They need to feel safe. So your work allows people to feel safe enough to take more risks. It's almost like their brains are giving them permission to step into their genius zone, which takes them out of their comfort zone. But the only way to increase your risk tolerance is to have that capacity. So I'm just making all these connections here. You're inspiring me so much to dive deeper into the nervous system regulation side. I do have that as a part of my programs with music. Music is amazing for nervous system regulation, hence our collaboration. But this conversation is inspiring me to no end because of these connections. So thank you for diving deeper into that with me, Jen. I appreciate it so much. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I thought I saw you think of another spark of an idea. Come up
Well,
there.
no, I love that you talked about that growth zone because that is such an important thing to highlight is we do want to stretch and we do want to give ourselves a chance to become resilient, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so we want to just honor that we want to stretch, not stress. And so that's one
Yeah.
thing I really teach my clients is stretch feels different than stress. So
Yeah.
we see the stretch, we want to stop the stress. And so absolutely, I'm so glad you brought that
Love
up
that.
because that is a nervous system informed approach to
Mm.
growth is it's saying, people that aren't familiar and dialed in like you are, Ina, to this work, they might miss that and they might just push, and think, um, I want you to stretch and stretch and stretch, but they stretch to the point of stress. And then that stress is going to create constriction, right?
Mhm.
And so it's actually going to create resistance purposefully. So we want to just stay in the stretch, pause before the stress.
Hmm. That is fascinating. And I love the two S's, the alliteration of
Yeah.
that phrase. It's so memorable. The stretch versus the stress. And it reminds me of I'm reading Cal Newport's book, Slow Productivity right now. And I highly recommend that book. I think you'd love it. He talks a lot about capacity because in order to be productive in a slow, methodical, enjoying the process kind of way, you have to manage your capacity. So he says maximum 3 projects on the docket per time, like per season of life, um, which is something you can do. But he actually talks about a pull-based system. I'd have to go and reread that section, but a pull-based system versus pushing more work in. So it's more about the work that's being pulled out and opening up more capacity than more work being pushed in and getting to a jamming point, almost like a printer with the paper jammed. So
Mm.
that analogy just came to mind of his pull-based system. I think you'd love his book. It's very connected to what you do, but also so practical.
Okay. Well, right, I'm going to add it to my list. I love a good
Sounds good. We can have another conversation about that. So we are almost to the end of our time, which I cannot believe. The time has just passed too quickly. I'm gonna have to have you back on the podcast. We're gonna have to hop on the phone and just continue the conversation at some point. I always end my podcasts with guests asking about their particular genius zone. So, how would you describe your genius zone, and how do you insert it in your daily routine? So, that's the question that I always ask.
Yeah, so I would say my genius zone is being able to do this work to equip women with their physiology based kind of like business from the inside out is the way
I
that.
love that.
So we're really equipping you to be the leader, be the business owner, be the founder
Mhm.
that you are from the inside out. And so we're doing that deep inner work that, in my opinion, is essential for sustainable success because anybody can be successful. Anybody can push themselves to the brink and sacrifice what matters most, which is typically family, friends, faith, physical health. Many of us have even done that, in fact, to find ourselves at a place where we cannot continue to achieve success
Mhm.
at that cost. But it's possible. And I think the work that I do, really helping women achieve success in a sustainable way from the inside out, it sets me apart. And I do bring in some spiritual pieces because I do believe in body, mind, spirit congruency. And I think that's so important for the whole person. And so I think that is probably something that makes me a little bit different too. I am not a woo woo person, and no offense to anybody that is, but I do it a little bit different. And so
Mhm.
I think that that resonates really well with my particular clients who appreciate that
Mm.
approach.
I agree. You have such a unique way of teaching nervous system regulation. It's a very popular topic these days. I'm seeing it everywhere. But every time I see you on a post or something you wrote and you teaching it, it's different. It has a different flavor, and that's how you know you've reached your genius zone. The other thing that I see in you is this sense of awe, almost like a child discovering flowers for the first time or tasting an orange, like a 1 year old tasting an orange. It has like, I see your eyes light up, and it's delightful to see as someone who helps guide women to discover their genius zone. I absolutely love seeing that in you. So, um, that also connects to why we did this collaboration. I lied before. I guess I have one more question for you. Um, or maybe more. It'll spark something, perhaps. What did you enjoy most about the activation you wrote? And what do you want people listening to it to take away? What's the goal of the private podcast episode we created?
I think it's one, we wanted it to be digestible for women to
Mm,
do it in their life. be honoring that everyone is busy, schedules are full. So we wanted to create something that was going to be transformational and also package it in a way that the modern day businesswoman could receive it. And so it's a shorter audio file that does deliver an immediate transformation. And so we are supporting Ina's using her incredible genius to deliver a musical masterpiece that is going to be soothing to the nervous system and really help support that calm, grounded, present experience. And then we are overlaying that with the voice activation of sort. And so we're just really speaking a message of expansion into the listener. And I'm bringing in some somatic nervous system guidance along the way.
Mm.
So it is a very transformational experience. We have created it with so much intention and purpose. We've really thought through many different layers of this to ensure that it's going to be a nervous system reset,
Mhm.
but it's also going to unlock creativity. It's going to unlock expansion. It's going to unlock some specific processes for the woman to really think through. We're asking you some directed questions to get your mind and your juices flowing to really help propel you into that next level. And it is something that you could listen to over and over and over. It's not a one and done. It really is something that I think you're going to be able to put on your playlist
Mhm.
as a daily, at least weekly thing that you're going to enjoy adding to your day.
Exactly. And Jen, I have to say, when I read the script, like we've gone through many different stages of putting this project together. But when I read the script, there was this one question that popped out at me, and I'll say it here so people have this little sneak peek. One of my favorite questions is, what is my body holding that's no longer mine to carry?
Mm. Mhm.
And the title could not be more perfect with it being about expansion, coming full circle to what we talked about at the beginning of this episode about your cup expanding, but you can't force it. Otherwise, it'll break. So I wanted to give that question to all the listeners as well as one last takeaway and encourage you all to click on the link in the description box, the show notes. We will make sure that the link to get the private podcast, it'll be hosted on the Flow State Formula private podcast, and it'll be an episode you do not want to miss. So thank you so much, Jen, for joining me today. How can people find you? What is the best way for people to contact you and get to know more about your work?
I'm very active on Instagram, Dr. Jen Bourgeois. If you just type in DRJENBOU, I should pop up. I'd love to connect there. I do have lots of free content and absolutely say hi in the DM. Let me know that you followed from this podcast, and I have a special gift just for you. So make sure you do that.
Nice. Okay, I'm very excited to know what that is. I'm going to ask Jen after I click record off, because we're going to keep it a secret until you DM her. So I'll make sure that all the links to find Jen is in the description box slash show notes as well. And I just hope that everyone listening will have the most wonderful day moving forward, that you will check in with yourself, see how you're doing, and give yourself grace. Give yourself what you need today. And enjoy your week. Until next time.